All right, so have you ever thought about how building a skyscraper, it's kind of like putting together a really awesome podcast episode.
Oh, I like that.
You need a solid foundation of ideas, right?
Yeah.
And then you bring in all these different experts, all these different moving parts to make it shine. And today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of architects and the network of specialists they team up with to bring incredible buildings to life.
That's such a great way to think about it.
So get ready to be amazed by all the behind-the-scenes players you never even knew existed.
Yeah, most people never think about it. They see the architect's name on a project.
Right.
But behind that name, there's a whole army of experts, each with their own unique skills and knowledge.
Okay, so first off, what exactly do we mean when we're talking about consultants in the architectural world?
Right.
Like, is it just one person, or are we talking about a whole team of people?
Well, a consultant is essentially anyone that's brought on for their specialized advice and expertise on a specific aspect of the project. And, on large-scale projects, it's definitely a whole team, not just one person.
Okay, so are there different types of consultants? I'm even thinking about all the stuff that goes into a building,
Yeah.
the electricity, the plumbing, heating, those crazy elevators.
Yeah.
It makes my head spin thinking about it all.
Yeah. It's a lot. There are a lot of moving parts and a lot of different disciplines involved.
Right.
So we can break it down into two main categories.
Okay.
First, you have your base building consultants. So think structural engineers, making sure the building can stand up straight.
Right.
Mechanical engineers, figuring out the heating and ventilation. And then you've got electrical engineers, making sure the lights turn on.
Yeah.
These are the folks that are making sure the building is a functioning building.
So they're like the unsung heroes, the backbone of the whole operation.
Exactly. Without them, you wouldn't have a safe and functional structure to begin with.
Right.
But then it doesn't stop there. We also have specialists.
Okay.
And that's where it gets really interesting.
All right, give me the inside scoop on these specialists. I'm all ears.
So imagine you're designing a concert hall.
Okay.
You would need an acoustical engineer
Right.
to make sure the sound quality is phenomenal, or a hospital.
Okay.
You need a medical equipment planner to make sure everything is set up correctly for patient care.
Mm-hmm.
Or even a facade consultant
Oh, wow.
to design the building's exterior and make sure it can withstand the elements.
Okay, I had no idea. There was so many different specialists involved in this.
Yeah.
So why can't the architect just do it all? I always thought that they were like the ultimate building gurus.
Well, while architects are incredibly talented and they have a really broad understanding of building design,
Yeah.
they just can't be specialists in every single field. It's not humanly possible.
Right.
That's why they rely on this network of consultants
Yeah.
to fill in those gaps and ensure that everything is designed and built to the highest standards.
Makes sense.
Plus, all the regulations and codes they have to follow.
Oh, yeah.
It's a
Minefield.
Yeah, so the consultants help them navigate all of that complexity.
So it's not just about aesthetics. It's about safety and functionality.
Exactly.
And making sure everything's up to code.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm curious about something. Does the architect always call the shots, or can those roles shift depending on the project?
Yeah, that's a really great question.
Yeah.
Because while we think of the architect as the lead, there are definitely situations where, let's say, an engineer might be the prime consultant.
Okay.
So, for instance, in a massive industrial facility where those technical aspects are really complex, the engineer might take the reins.
Okay, so the architect isn't always the boss of the project.
Not always.
Interesting.
And that's why having really clear roles and responsibilities is super important.
Sure.
Like we're talking contracts, legal agreements, the whole shebang.
Yeah, you know me. I'm all about getting everything in writing,
Yeah.
even when I'm making plans with friends.
Right.
So tell me more about these agreements between the architect and the consultants.
So think about it this way. Each consultant is like an independent contractor
Okay.
coming on board to lend their expertise.
Right.
So the architect needs to have a clear agreement with each of them, outlining what they're responsible for, how much they'll get paid, when the work needs to be done, and even who owns the intellectual property rights.
So it's like a detailed roadmap for each expert to make sure everyone's on the same page and there are no surprises down the road.
Exactly. And in Canada, there's actually a recommended standard contract. It's called RAIC Document 9.
Wait, RAIC Document 9. What's the deal with that? I'm intrigued.
So it's developed by the Royal Architectural Institute of Canada.
Okay.
And it's widely used to establish clear roles, responsibilities, fees, and intellectual property rights between the architect and the consultants.
Okay.
It just prevents disputes and makes sure everyone's literally on the same page.
Okay, so I'm starting to grasp the complexity of this whole operation. It's like this giant puzzle with all these different pieces fitting together.
Yeah.
But even with these agreements in place, How does the architect actually manage this whole team of experts? It sounds kind of like herding cats.
Well, this is where the architect truly shines. Think of them like a conductor.
Yeah.
Leading an orchestra, they need to make sure everyone is playing their part beautifully, that the music flows seamlessly, and that the audience is blown away by the final performance.
So the architect is like the maestro,
Yes.
coordinating all these different experts to create a symphony that also happens to be a building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have a lot of tools at their disposal.
Yeah.
They set quality standards, make sure everyone is communicating effectively, and they keep the project on track.
So what are some of the specific methods or approaches architects use to manage this complexity? Is there like a secret formula?
Well, there's no secret formula, but there are definitely some best practices.
Okay.
And one increasingly popular approach is what's called the integrated design process, or IDP.
Integrated design process.
Oh, okay.
Break that down for me.
So with IDP, the focus is on bringing those consultants early on in the process,
Oh.
not after the architect has created a design. It's all about collaborating from the beginning with everyone working together to shape the project.
So it's not about just handing off tasks and hoping for the best. It's about a true partnership.
Exactly. And that actually leads us to another interesting piece of this whole puzzle, which is the role of consultant associations.
Wait, consultant associations? I thought all these experts were like lone wolves operating independently. You're telling me they have their own clubs?
They absolutely do. And that's a great segue into the next part of our deep dive.
Right, I'm hooked. Let's get into it.
It's funny, they're like professional guilds, just like, those skilled artisans back in the day. But instead of blacksmiths and weavers, we've got structural engineers and acoustical consultants.
Okay, so I'm picturing these consultant associations like secret societies with hidden handshakes and elaborate rituals.
Maybe not that dramatic, but they are all about setting professional standards, sharing knowledge and promoting best practices.
Okay.
It's a way for experts to stay connected, learn from each other, and ensure that the industry is constantly pushing the boundaries.
Okay, I'm sold. Tell me about some of these guilds or, I guess, associations.
Yeah.
What are the big ones in Canada?
Well, two that come to mind are the Association of Consulting Engineering Companies, or ACEC for short,
Okay.
and then also Construction Specifications Canada, or CSC.
Okay, those sound pretty important.
Yeah.
But what do? Do they throw wild parties for engineers and architects?
I wish, although I'm sure they do have some fun events.
Right.
But seriously, the ACEC is a huge advocate for consulting engineering firms across Canada.
Okay.
They work really hard to maintain high professional standards,
Right.
provide resources to their members, and represent the industry's interests at the government level.
So they're like the guardians of engineering excellence, making sure everyone's playing by the rules and delivering top-notch work.
Exactly. Now, CSC plays a different but equally important role.
Okay.
They focus on developing clear and consistent construction specifications.
Okay.
Think of it as the language that everyone involved in the project uses to communicate.
Construction specifications.
Oh?
So is that like a super detailed blueprint, but in words?
It's more like a giant instruction manual for the building.
Oh, right.
So they make sure that everyone from the architect to the contractor understands exactly what materials to use, how things should be installed, and what level of quality is expected.
Right.
It really helps to prevent a lot of costly misunderstandings and errors down the line.
Wow, that's incredibly important. So I'm really starting to realize just how interconnected this whole ecosystem is. It's like a giant, well-oiled machine with each part playing this crucial role.
It is, and let's not forget, even with the best plans and contracts in place, there's still the human element, bringing together all these different experts with their own personalities, working styles, and communication preferences. It can definitely pose a challenge.
Right, so with all these contracts and organizations trying to keep things running smoothly, are there still challenges in coordinating these teams?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how often miscommunication or conflicting opinions can arise.
I can imagine, yeah.
Think about it. You've got creative architects, you've got analytical engineers, detail-oriented specialists. It's a recipe for some interesting dynamics.
Right, so how do they actually make it work? Is it all about the architect's leadership skills, or are there other strategies involved?
Leadership is definitely essential, but it goes beyond just one person.
Okay.
It's about fostering a culture of open communication and collaboration right for the start.
So it's about building a sense of teamwork,
Yes.
even though everyone's coming from these different disciplines and might have very different ways of approaching things.
You got it. It's about creating a space where everyone feels comfortable sharing their ideas, raising concerns, and respectfully challenging each other's assumptions.
Yeah.
Ultimately realizing that Everyone is working towards this common goal, which is to create an amazing building.
Now, I can't imagine this whole process happening without a healthy dose of technology.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a digital world, so I'm guessing there's some pretty cool tools that help keep everyone on the same page, right?
Absolutely. Technology is a game changer in the world of architecture.
Yeah.
You've got incredible tools like building information modeling, or BIM,
Okay.
which allows everyone to work on a shared 3D model of the building.
BIM. Okay. How does that work in practice?
So imagine a virtual 3D model of the building,
Okay.
so detailed that you can see every wall, every pipe wire, even furniture.
Wow.
And everyone from the architect to the structural engineer to the electrician can access and interact with this model, adding their own designs and input.
Oh, wow.
And it helps to really visualize the project from all angles and identify potential clashes or conflicts before they even happen on site.
So instead of relying on those 2D drawings that can be kind of hard to interpret, they've got this dynamic 3D model that everyone can literally see and understand.
Exactly. It's like having X-ray vision for the entire building. And then you've got project management software to track tasks, deadlines, budgets, all that fun stuff.
Right. So it's like having a digital conductor who keeps the whole orchestra in sync.
That's a great analogy. It streamlines communication, helps manage resources, and keeps everyone informed about progress and any potential hiccups.
But even with all this technology, I imagine there's still a need for good old-fashioned face-to-face interaction.
Absolutely. Technology is a powerful tool, but it can never replace the human element.
Right.
There's something about being in the same room,
Yeah.
brainstorming ideas, sketching on napkins, and having those spontaneous conversations that can spark some real innovation.
So tell me, what does that look like in practice? What are some of the ways these teams make sure that human connection doesn't get lost in the digital shuffle?
Well, it's about creating opportunities for people to connect.
Yeah.
So regular team meetings are crucial, not just to discuss progress reports,
Right.
but to really problem solve together and bounce ideas off each other. Site visits are also important. It allows everyone to see the project coming to life
Yeah.
and identify any potential issues early on. And then there are workshops, which are more focused sessions,
Okay.
where the team can deep dive into specific challenges or design elements.
So it's really about striking that balance between leveraging the power of technology,
Yes.
but also fostering those human connections
Yes.
that are so essential for creativity and problem solving.
You nailed it. And let's not forget, building a successful team is about more than just skills and technology. It's
Yeah.
about the people you know, it's about mutual respect, clear communication, and a shared vision for what they're trying to achieve.
Speaking of shared vision, it brings me back to the architect's role you mentioned earlier, that they're like the conductor of the orchestra.
Right.
So what qualities make a great conductor, or rather a great architect in this context?
Well, first and foremost, they need to be exceptional communicators.
Okay.
Able to clearly articulate the project goals and keep everyone informed and aligned.
Yeah.
They also need to be skilled negotiators and mediators, able to navigate those inevitable conflicts that arise when you have so many different perspectives in the room.
So it's not just about being a talented designer. It's about being a leader, a diplomat, a master communicator.
Exactly. And perhaps most importantly, they need to be genuinely passionate about collaboration. They have to believe in the power of bringing together all these different minds and skill sets to create something truly extraordinary.
Wow, that's quite a tall order.
Mm.
I'm starting to feel a new level of respect for architects and the complex task they have managing these incredible teams of experts. And I imagine this whole process is becoming even more challenging with the growing demands for things like sustainability, energy efficiency, smart building technologies.
You're absolutely right. It's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah.
But that's what makes this field so exciting. It's constantly evolving, pushing boundaries, and finding new ways to create buildings that are not only beautiful and functional, but also sustainable and responsible.
Okay, you've blown my mind with all this talk about architects, engineers, consultants, but I have a feeling there's one more crucial group of players that we haven't talked about yet, the quality control crew. Am I right?
You read my mind. We can't forget about the unsung heroes who make sure that everything is built to the highest standards, the testing agencies and inspection services.
All right, let's shine a spotlight on these folks.
Okay.
I imagine they come in at the very end of the project to give everything the final stamp of approval.
Not just at the end, they're involved throughout the entire construction process,
Okay.
conducting detailed inspections and tests to ensure the building is being built exactly according to those plans and specifications.
So they're like the building inspectors you see on those home renovation shows, but on a much larger or more complex scale.
Precisely, think of them as the guardians of building codes and safety standards.
Okay.
They're responsible for testing the strength of the concrete, inspecting electrical systems, making sure the building envelope is properly sealed. It's a huge responsibility.
Wow, it sounds like their work is absolutely crucial for protecting the public and making sure these buildings are safe and functional.
Absolutely. They're the ones who ensure that all those carefully crafted plans and designs actually translate into a real safe and durable building. It's a critical part of the whole process.
I'm starting to understand the sheer scale and complexity of the network involved in bringing a building to life.
Well,
It really is like a perfectly choreographed ballet with every dancer playing a crucial role.
and it all starts with the architect's vision and their ability to assemble and lead this incredible team. Speaking of which, let's circle back to those agreements between architects and consultants for a moment.
Okay.
We mentioned RAIC Document 9 earlier.
Yes.
Are there any other important details that our listeners should know about these agreements?
That's a great point. We've talked about the overall purpose of these agreements,
Yeah.
but I'm curious about the nitty-gritty details. What are some of the key elements that are usually included?
One of the most important aspects is clearly outlining the scope of services for each consultant. Think of it as a super detailed job description.
So it's like saying, okay, structural engineer, you're in charge of making sure the building doesn't fall down. Acoustical consultant, you make sure the music sounds amazing. And kitchen equipment consultant,
Yeah.
you make sure the chefs have all the tools they need to whip up culinary masterpieces.
It helps avoid any confusion or overlap in responsibilities, and it's also crucial to clearly define the fees and payment terms up front
Right.
to make sure everyone's on the same page financially and there are no surprises down the road.
Makes sense. No one wants any financial surprises, especially on a project of this scale. But I'm
Yeah.
also thinking about those designs and drawings that the consultants are creating.
Yeah.
Who actually owns those?
That's a great question. Intellectual property rights are a big deal in the architectural world.
Yeah.
Typically, the agreement will stipulate that the copyright for any work created by the consultant for the project is assigned to the architect.
So even though the consultant created the drawings, the architect ultimately owns them.
That's right. It helps ensure that the architect has control over the overall design
Right.
and can use the drawings for future purposes like renovations or additions. It's all about protecting the architect's intellectual property.
This whole conversation had been so eye-opening. I had no idea about the intricate web of relationships and agreements that exist behind the scenes of these amazing buildings. It's truly fascinating.
It is.
But before we move on, I'd love to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the engineer sometimes being the prime consultant, especially in industrial projects. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Absolutely. In certain projects, the engineering aspects might be so complex and specialized
Right.
that it makes more sense for the engineer to take the lead.
Okay.
Think about projects like factories, power plants, or large-scale infrastructure projects where those technical requirements are paramount.
So in those cases, instead of the architect being the conductor, the engineer steps up to the podium and leads the orchestra.
Exactly. And even in those cases, the architect still plays a vital role,
Okay.
collaborating closely with the engineer to ensure the building meets the client's aesthetic and functional needs.
So it's still a team effort, just with a different leader at the helm.
Precisely, the takeaway here is that successful architectural projects require a diverse team of experts working together harmoniously.
Yeah.
Regardless of who holds the title of crime consultant, it's all about collaboration, communication, and a shared passion for creating amazing structures.
Well said.
Okay.
Okay, before we wrap things up, I have one last burning question for you.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that sometimes engineers can be the prime consultant.
Right.
Can you give me an example of a project where that might be the case?
Of course, imagine a project like a massive manufacturing plant.
Go ahead.
The complexity of the machinery, the flow of materials, the safety requirements, all of that requires a very specialized engineering skill set.
So in that case, the engineer would be the one leading the charge, making sure all those intricate systems are designed and integrated properly.
Exactly. They would be responsible for things like structural integrity, mechanical systems, electrical distribution, and even things like fire suppression and safety protocols.
Wow, that's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
But I imagine the architect would still be involved in terms of the overall design and aesthetics of the building, right?
Absolutely. Even in an engineer-led project, the architect's role is still crucial.
Okay.
They would work closely with the engineer to ensure the building's form and function are aligned, that it meets the client's vision, and that it fits harmoniously into its surroundings.
So it's still a team effort, just with a different emphasis on the engineering side. That makes a lot of sense.
And it highlights the importance of adaptability and flexibility in the world of architectural collaboration.
Right.
Each project is unique, and the roles and responsibilities of the team members will shift depending on the specific needs and challenges.
Well, this has been an absolutely fascinating journey behind the scenes of the architectural world. I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the incredible amount of expertise and collaboration that goes into creating the buildings we see every day.
It's been my pleasure sharing these insights with you. And, it makes you wonder, with all this specialized knowledge and the ever-evolving demands of our world,
Yeah.
how do we ensure that the field of architecture continues to innovate and adapt to the challenges of the future?
Ooh, that's a great question. I guess that's something for all of us to ponder as we move into the final part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here?
You've got me thinking, we've talked about all these amazing experts working together,
Yeah,
but the world's changing so fast.
it is.
How does the field of architecture keep up with all the new challenges like climate change and the need for more sustainable cities?
That's such a crucial question. The role of architects and their collaborators is expanding. That's not just about designing these beautiful buildings anymore.
Right. It's about tackling some of the biggest challenges that are facing humanity.
It's not just about bricks and mortar.
Right.
It's about designing buildings that are good for the planet and good for people.
Exactly. Like take sustainability, for example.
Yeah.
Architects and engineers are now working together to create buildings that minimize their environmental impact.
Okay.
We're talking about renewable energy efficiency, sustainable materials. It's a whole new way of thinking.
It's amazing to think that the buildings that we live and work in can actually help create a healthier planet.
It is, and it goes beyond just the environment.
Okay.
Architects are also thinking about things like social equity.
Right.
So designing spaces that are accessible and welcoming to people of all abilities and backgrounds.
So it's about creating spaces that are truly inclusive, where everyone feels comfortable and welcome.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the growing need for resilient cities.
Right.
With climate change bringing more extreme weather events. Architects and engineers are designing buildings that can withstand the challenges of this changing world.
Wow. It's incredible to think about all these factors that go into designing a building. Now, it's not just about aesthetics anymore. It's about creating a better future for everyone.
And that's where those consultant associations that we talked about earlier play such a huge role.
Yeah.
They're at the forefront of sharing knowledge about new technologies, sustainable practices, and innovative design solutions.
So they're not just clubs for architects and engineers to hang out.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually driving the evolution of the entire field.
Exactly. They're providing the resources and the platform for these experts to learn from each other,
Right.
collaborate on new ideas, and really push the boundaries of what's possible in architecture.
This has been an absolutely mind-blowing journey.
It has.
I had no idea how much goes on behind the scenes of these incredible buildings that we see every day.
It's amazing.
From the architects to the engineers to the consultants and the testing agencies, it's a whole symphony of expertise and collaboration.
It truly is. And, the next time you walk into a building, take a moment to appreciate all the thought, the creativity, and the teamwork that went into creating it. It's a testament to the power of human ingenuity.
Beautifully said. And for our listeners who want to learn more, be sure to check out the links in our show notes.
Yes.
We've got resources on everything from sustainable building practices to those fascinating consultant associations that we talked about.
And who knows, maybe this deep dive will inspire you to explore a career in architecture or one of those amazing consultant fields. The possibilities are endless.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey of discovery. Until next time, keep exploring the world around you with curiosity and